Doneraile was supposed to be celebrating. The local hurling team had won. People were out, the village was alive, and Barry Daly, a 44-year-old father of 5 and local postman, was walking home. But in the early hours of October 12, 2025, that walk ended outside his own home at Rockview Terrace. By the time the case reached court, the story was no longer just about a night out after a GAA celebration. It was about CCTV, golf clubs, a claim about what happened outside a bar, a fatal attack outside the family home, and the question that separated manslaughter from murder. Did this happen in the chaos of a violent night? Or did someone have enough time, enough warning, and enough intent to stop before Barry Daly lost his life? That question would follow the jury for days. And it began with a man who too many people in Doneraile was simply known as Barry. Before everything changed, Barry Daly was 44 years old. He was a father of 5. He worked as a postman. In a village like Doneraile, that kind of a job makes a person familiar. A postman is not just someone who passes through the streets. He becomes part of the daily rhythm of the community. People see him, people know him, people remember him. But on the night of October 11, 2025, Barry was not part of a crime story. He was part of a local celebration. Doneraile had a reason to be proud that night. The local hurling team had won a Junior B final, and people gathered in LA's bar for post-match celebrations. It was the kind of night that should have ended with people going home, talking about the match, and waking up the next morning with memories of a victory. Instead, the celebration split out into the street, and somewhere in that movement from bar to road, the nights begin to change. The celebration turns. Court evidence later described fighting on the street after the bar emptied. According to trial evidence, one witness said there was a lot of fighting among young people and that he tried to calm things down. During the commotion, a key claim emerged. Alex Deady's girlfriend said that Barry Daly had hit her outside the bar. Barry's response, according to evidence heard in court, was that it was an accident. This detail mattered because it became part of the background to what happened next. It did not explain everything, it did not prove intent, but it helped the jury understand the prosecution and defense arguments around anger, reaction, and whether the violence that followed was murder or manslaughter. The important thing is this: Barry Daly left the area, he walked away, and court evidence later showed that he was seen on CCTV walking past a house on Mallow Road on his way home. Minutes later, others were seen following. What had started near a bar was now moving toward Barry's home. The first major clue was not a confession, it was movement. CCTV shown to the jury placed Barry Daly walking home in the early hours. The same evidence placed Alex Deady and 2 co-accused following later, before returning past the same camera afterward. That timeline became central because if Barry had walked away and others followed him, the case was no longer only about a sudden fight outside a bar. It became about what happened during the gap. Why did the confrontation continue? Why were golf clubs involved? And what happened outside Rockview Terrace? The trial also heard evidence that 2 accused were seen with the golf clubs and were seen throwing golf clubs over a wall. For investigators, those details matter because they connected people, movements, possible weapons, and the location of the fatal attack. Barry Daly was later found outside his home. He was unresponsive. The celebration was over. Now, Doneraile was a crime scene. The investigation begins. Guards has to build the case from the ground up. They had the location, they had CCTV, they had witness accounts, they had the golf clubs, they had the movements before and after the attack, and they had interviews with the accused. 3 people were charged with murdering Barry Daly at Rockview Terrace in Doneraile on October 12, 2025. Alex Deady of Glenview, Convert Road, Doneraile, denied murder but pleaded guilty to manslaughter. A 17-year-old co-accused who could not be named because he is a juvenile also denied murder but pleaded guilty to manslaughter. A 16-year-old co-accused, also protected by juvenile anonymity, was originally charged with murder. During the trial, he pleaded not guilty to murder but guilty to manslaughter, and that manslaughter plea was accepted by the Director of Public Prosecutions. That means the jury no longer had to consider the murder case against the 16-year-old, but they still had to decide the case against Alex Deady. And separately, they still had to consider the case against the 17-year-old. That separation was important. The judge reminded the jury that this was separated trial. They had to decide each case individually, based on the evidence against each accused person. The case was not simply about who was present. It was about what each person did, what each person knew, and what each person intended. The detail that made this case so disturbing was not only that Barry Daly was attacked, it was where the attack ended, outside his own home. The place where a person should be safest became the place where Barry lost his life. The second strange detail was the movement after Barry had already left the first confrontation. Court evidence placed Barry walking home first. Then, minutes later, the accused were seen following. That timing became crucial because murder trials often turn on moments, not just what happened, but what could have happened instead. Could someone have stopped? Could someone have walked away? Could the confrontation have ended when Barry left the area? The prosecution's case focused on the idea that there were opportunities to stop before the fatal attack. The defense position, through the manslaughter plea, accepted unlawful killing but rejected murder. That is the legal heart of the case. The question was not whether Barry Daly died because of unlawful violence. The question was whether the prosecution had proven murder. And to answer that, the jury had to look closely at its intent. The biggest public breakthrough came on July 3rd, 2026. After 4 days of deliberations, the jury found Alex Deady guilty of murder. Reports differed of whether his age was 20 or 21. But Irish Times and Irish Examiner reports described him as 20, while the Journal described him as 21. What made it illegal is that Alex Deady was convicted of murdering a 44-year-old Barry Daly at Rockview Terrace, Doneraile, on October 12, 2025. The Irish Examiner reported that the jury deliberated for 11 hours and 51 minutes before returning an anonymous verdict. The Irish Times reported that Deady remained in custody for sentence after the conviction. But the case was not completely finished. The jury was due to continue deliberating in relation to the 17-year-old co-accused. Because that accused is a juvenile, he cannot be named. That means any documentary about this case has to be careful. Alex Deady was being convicted. The 16-year-old manslaughter plea was accepted. But the 70-year-old position must be described only through confirmed court reporting and without naming him. The confirmed evidence tells a clear sequence. Barry Daly was at or near the post-match celebration. There was fighting after the bar emptied. A claim was made that Barry hit Alex Deady's girlfriend, while Barry reportedly said it was an accident. Barry walked away. CCTV placed him walking home. CCTV and witness evidence then placed the accused moving after him. Golf clubs become part of the case. Barry was found outside his home. He died after the attack. Alex Deady denied murder but admitted manslaughter. A jury rejected that position and convicted him of murder. One possible theory is that the jury saw the movement after Barry left the area as a major dividing line. This does not prove what every person was thinking. It does not explain every second of the night, but it could explain why the prosecution's murder argument succeeded against Alex Deady. If Barry had already left and the accused followed him toward his home with golf clubs, the jury may have decided that this was not just a single uncontrolled moment outside the bar. They may have seen time, distance, and continued pursuit as evidence that the violence went beyond manslaughter. The problem with any theory is that we cannot know the private thoughts of the people involved. All we can say is that the jury heard the evidence, deliberated for almost 12 hours, and found Alex Deady guilty of murder. That verdict tells us the jury was satisfied that the legal threshold for murder had been met in his case. But one question still remained. What would the same jury decide about the 17-year-old co-accused? As of the last confirmed report used for this script, Alex Deady has been convicted of murdering Barry Daly. He had pleaded guilty to manslaughter, but the jury found him guilty to murder. He was remanded in custody for sentence. The 16-year-old co-accused's manslaughter plea was accepted by the Director of Public Prosecutions. The 17-year-old co-accused, who cannot be named because he is a juvenile, had pleaded not guilty to murder but guilty to manslaughter, and the jury was due to resume deliberation in his case. That means the story has one confirmed murder conviction, one accepted manslaughter plea, and one part of the case still needing careful court confirmation before any final update is added. For Barry Daly family, the legal label matter: murder, manslaughter, intent, responsibility. But none of those words can undo the central fact. A father of 5 walked home after village celebration and never come back. The Barry Daly case is powerful because it does not begin with darkness. It begins with a local win, a bar, a celebration, a village that should have been remembering a hurling victory. But by the early morning, the story had moved from sport to violence, from the street to a family home, from a night out to a murder trial. The final question is not only who was responsible. A jury has now answered that for Alex Deady. The deeper question is how many chances existed for this to stop before Barry Daly was attacked outside his own home. Because somewhere between the first confrontation and Rockview Terrace, there was a line. Barry Daly crossed it by walking home. The people who followed him crossed it another way. And that is why the final walk of Cork Postman became a murder case.